Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to the very first, or episode 0 of ZOMBcast. I am one of your hosts, Nick. Here with me today is my buddy.
Yo, man. It's Kevin.
Hello, Kevin, and welcome to our introductory ZOMBcast. So we decided the best thing for us would be to have an episode 0, and so this is going to be just the intro to the world of ZOMBcast and kind of what you can expect from us, and really just introing us. And then episode 1, we're going to talk about what was the first zombie movie ever, and investigating, well, what is really, the first zombie movie. All right, so let's just get into it. Let's go into it. Let's say a little bit about ourselves. So why don't you start it off, Kev?
Well, hi, I'm Kevin. I'm 6 foot. Actually, I'm 5'11", but I say I'm 6 foot. No, got a couple kids, which most of you who watch our channel know me and know what I'm about. Really excited about zombies just because I've always had a big interest in zombies. I mean, since I was a wee little laddie, I've been watching, flesh-eating people. There's even zombie movies that I've seen that I cannot remember the name to, and I wish I could because they were really, really good. So I'm excited for this adventure because I feel like this is going to help me find that movie from when I was a kid.
Right.
And I mean, literally, it's like one of my favorite zombie movies of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have alligators. There's alligators.
Alligators.
And it's from like the 80s. And it's like anyways, enough about me. How are you? What are you about?
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Nick. Me and Kevin actually started Threat X3 Productions. So that's the production company that we have for this podcast and many other podcasts. So you might recognize me or maybe even Kevin from a podcast of late. In particular, our biggest one was Apex Legends Hubcast, your central hub for everything Apex. But enough about that. I have 2 daughters, so I'm a double daughter daddy. And
double daughter daddy.
Yep. I also love zombies. ZOMBcast has always been like something that's been building in the back of my mind, something I've always kind of wanted to do.
It's been on the plate for 5 years. It's been on the plate for 5 years. It's something that we've touched on, we've talked about. And I mean, now, with the unfortunate side of COVID, there's some more freedom for me. Over the last 5 years, I've been bogged down with work and this, and it's just been about timing. And lately I've been able to reassess my schedules, and we're able to make this happen after 5 years. Like, we already ate our peas, we ate the mashed potatoes, and we ate the meat. This is the dessert, people. This is the dessert, and I'm ready for it.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm excited to go on this adventure, just to let everybody who's listening know, what is ZOMBcast going to be? Well, for one, it's going to be about zombies, and more zombies.
Wait,
but more specific,
are there going to be zombies?
There's going to be plenty of freaking zombies, okay?
All right, zombies.
But more specifically, we are going to be covering movies, TV, video games, comic books. Anything that has a zombie, we're going to be covering it. So in our episode 0, I think it's very pertinent to discuss what exactly is a zombie, what constitutes a zombie, what counts as a zombie. I feel like that's very important so that you guys listening exactly know, well, why don't you talk about this movie? It's like, well, that's not technically zombies, okay?
It's not a zombie.
So let's start off with you.
Okay.
I have my mouse on you. Let me get my mouse off of you.
Yeah, don't put your mouse on.
So let's start with you. What do you think constitutes a zombie, or what do you think? Like, what's some main things that need to happen in order? Like, this is what actually zombie is.
So when it comes down to it, right, I think that this is going to be a changing opinion. I think on both of our parts through this adventure, I think our opinions are going to change. But as of right now, what constitutes a zombie? Flesh eater, number one.
Okay.
It's got to be a flesh eater. The whole brain concept, I'm not really like, oh, they want brains because they don't have a brain. Like, yeah, okay. But
yeah.
just the aggressiveness of a zombie just to attack and have that primal
animalistic,
that primal instinct, I think is like almost necessary.
Yes.
How it spreads. If it spreads through a bite, a scratch, if you get their blood and your blood mixed and in your body, you turn. I mean, basically any bodily fluid. It's like AIDS. It spreads by any bodily fluid going into your body, right? So I think, I don't think it's any bodily fluid. And if I got that wrong, I apologize to people who have HIV or AIDS. That's not my intention. I'm just trying to show the connection. Well, I got to make people know I don't think there's ambies. I think that deterioration of the body is kind of like a key iconic thing. But I don't think it's necessary. In every zombie aspect, I don't think that body deterioration is necessary.
Yeah.
I really enjoy some movies that they are still living, feeding, ticking humans. They're just broken.
Yeah.
Okay.
Broken. Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'd have to agree with everything you said. So moving on. No, I'm just kidding.
Great. Oh, first episode out of the way.
There you go. Yeah, right. No, to elaborate more on the whole brains thing, I've never really understood that because how do you kill a zombie?
You got to shoot him in the head.
You got to shoot in the head. So, but then how do you turn somebody into a zombie? If we're going by the brains aspect, right? They try to eat your brains. So what are you shooting if they've already had their brains eaten out? What are you shooting?
Yeah. So, loophole. I see what you mean.
Right.
I guess I never looked at it in that perspective, but maybe that's like a subconscious thing of why I never really believed in it.
Right. For me, that's the main reason. It's just like, well, if they don't have a brain because it was eaten, then how? Unless you get bit, but you somehow get away, and that's what turns you into a zombie, and then as a zombie, you want brains. So if you eat a person's brain, do they not turn into a zombie? That's why, like, that particular zombie, quote-unquote zombie, is very convoluted, because, like, it doesn't make sense. Whereas, like you were saying, it's an infection. I get bit, so then I get a flu. I start, like, getting really hot. It spreads throughout my body. And eventually, I just keel over. That makes sense because like that's scientifical. But brains, like that's more mystical.
Yeah. I also think that the concept of zombies that can talk, I do like that aspect because like, who's to say that a zombie doesn't have a memory bank?
Right.
Who's to say that their brains can't still function in that, because again, we have to kill the brain.
True.
I mean, we have to shut the brain down, and to add on to your like eating of the brains thing, never put it into perspective. How come when a body deteriorates, the brain doesn't deteriorate?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we're talking about like zombies as if they're real, I'm wondering if like the reason is because the brain is kind of the only thing that's stimulated. Sure, their muscles and stuff are stimulated because they have to walk around, but really the only thing that's getting stimulated is their brain, and that's the thing that makes them come back to life, and therefore you're able to kill it. So that's maybe, I mean, who knows, 20 years down the road, it's eventually going to deteriorate the brain as well, you would think.
Right. So, but I think that could be a massive plot hole and loophole in the zombie aspect because of the fact that if the brains deteriorate, hide in a bunker for 20 years, they're all going to kill themselves off. Cure for zombie apocalypse, right?
Yeah, I mean, given today's
nobody's
climate,
making it 30 days.
Nobody's making it 30 fucking days.
Making it 30 days. Everybody's like,
I need a haircut.
Yeah.
Who's supposed to cut my hair? My daughter?
My daughter. I'm here for a job interview. You have one hair left.
Any hosers.
Yeah. So no, I do agree with that. That the whole concept of eating a brain just never really.
Yeah.
Now to kill a zombie by decapitation, severing the spine, removing the brain, like that makes sense because that's your motor function. That's it's like, oh, hit a vampire in the heart, shoot a zombie in the brain.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a huge argument that a vampire is a zombie and a zombie is a vampire. No.
Definitely not. Yeah,
definitely
a vampire
not.
is undead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say it's like spiders, okay? There's many kind of types of spiders.
Yes.
So spiders is to undead as zombies is to undead and vampires is unto undead. But you could have a tarantula, you can have a daddy longlegs. Yeah. They're both spiders, but they're undead.
Yeah, right.
So that's the way I look at it because, you can have many, just like a voodoo zombie. A voodoo zombie isn't really a zombie because there was no infection, there was no bite. Instead, they reanimated a corpse and they're, playing with it like a little, puppet, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
So to me, voodoo zombies aren't really zombies. They're just these
reanimated
corpses.
Necromanced corpses. They didn't come back through animation of a bacteria or virus or contagion. Right. They were brought back from the dead. However, for argument's sake, to play devil's advocate on this one, right? The concept of a reanimated corpse through voodoo, yes, it's by a different measure. It's more of like a witchcraft thing. But as long as the zombies are aggressive, bloodthirsty, and the contagion can still spread,
yes,
if it's still spreadable, that would make the voodoo zombie a zombie.
Yeah,
not necessarily. So just for argument's sake, we are going to look at that perspective when going into our movies, comics, stuff like that. We're going to take everything into account. And I really think that this is a very influenced show by you, the fans. If we're not covering a zombie movie or we haven't mentioned a zombie comic or anything to do with zombies, if we haven't touched on it and you know of something we don't know, like we need to watch it, we need to read it, we need to listen to this story, send it to us. We will review everything you send us because we want to give you guys the best detailed information on what we feel a zombie is and, well, how to survive the zombie apocalypse.
So two things we definitely agree on.
Yeah.
Or I think we can definitely agree on. Number one, it's infectious.
Oh, 100% contagious.
So that's one of the key things. So when we're looking at any kind of zombie apocalypse, that's the first thing we're going to look at. Well, is it infectious? Can I pass it on to somebody? Number two, I feel like part of what makes a zombie is the fact that the person dies. They are no longer themselves. Where a vampire, for a good example, the person gets bit, they are still technically themselves,
right?
But they just like blood a lot.
Yeah, they can get a job.
Yeah.
Now there is theory that when a vampire or a human gets bit by a vampire, that they do die. They do die. So like Interview with the Vampire, right? Honestly, one of my favorite movies of all time. He gets bit and he does die, but then he wakes up anew, right?
Right.
So in that aspect, he is a reanimated corpse, but he's not a violent, aggressive. It is still a contagion. A vampire is definitely a contagion that is spread through bites. And I think that...
Just like a werewolf.
Like a werewolf.
Just and so you know.
Silver messes with vampires just like werewolves, but it does mess with zombies. So again, it's kind of like you have werewolves, zombies, and then like the vampire kind of ties the two, right? In a way. But overall, a vampire is still a vampire. They are dead. They are brought back, but they're not aggressive. They're not flesh eating. They just want to drink your blood.
So I guess that would be the third trait that we're always looking for. Do they like to eat flesh? Do they like to eat, meat? Is that their main cause? Because then we could also agree that they're pretty mindless, maybe not mindless in the sense where they can't have thought processes, but mindless in the sense of their only real, drive is, hey, what's my next meal? When can I get it?
Yes, girl. Yes, girl. Yes. Yes. No, 100%. I think that is important. And it when looking into that, we're also going to find, okay, do the zombies only eat human flesh, or are they, again, mindless enough to, if it moves, we eat?
Right.
And that's another perspective in the zombie apocalypse. It's like, why don't zombies in some movies go after animals? Maybe the animal's a lot faster.
True.
I mean, animals are typically faster than humans. Have you ever tried to catch a chicken? It's pretty difficult. You got to corner it.
Right.
And in The Walking Dead, for example, we do see them eat horses and things like that. Right. But in Dawn of the Dead, they lower a dog into a middle of a crowd and the dog kind of like weaves through it. So what is going to constitute of what they want to eat? You know? Is it like, are we dying hungry?
I think it either has to do with how hungry they are. Like, if anything, it's like, I think maybe they prefer humans, because maybe it's kind of like in World War Z, where it's about like spreading the infection. You know, so their mind process is, I want to spread the infection. Sure, I could eat this dog, but I'm not going to turn the dog into a zombie, so why would I want to eat the dog? But I definitely agree with the fact that, like, eating a horse, eating a squirrel, it just makes sense, because that goes back to the mindless aspect, where they're not really caring where the meal's coming from. They just want the next meal.
Food. Put food in here.
Food
That's
here.
all they want.
Yes,
food.
Definitely.
So with that perspective, you know, then as you're coming out of that realm and those types of zombies, you're going to hit the spectrum of I Am Legend, like zombies, right? Because you have World War Z, which is mass horde, high functioning. Now you have I Am Legend zombies where they can't go out in the sun because it hurts them, but they're violent and they're aggressive, and the contagion does spread. Yeah. It is a spreadable contagion.
I think the I Am Legend / Omega Man vampires are the closest thing to zombies.
You would classify them as a vampire.
Technically, that is what they are. If you go through it, well, I mean, if you look through even just what they describe them like. Okay, the very original their very original. Is it I Am Legend? Let me look real fast.
I think it's Omega Man.
The Last Man on Earth. So the Last Man on Earth, 1964. The very first scene, which I Am Legend and Omega Man are basically remakes or adaptations, rather, of The Last Man on Earth.
As adaptations, yeah.
Yes, adaptations. But the very first scene of the 1964 Last Man on Earth is of him making steaks. So, going by that logic, they're vampires. But if you go to Will Smith's, like, I Am Legend, I don't know if they ever technically call them vampires. No. So if you're only going by their behavior, I could agree. I could see what you mean by, they must be zombies. But it's that sunlight aspect that I think. But who's to say a zombie can't be, afraid of the sun or get hurt by the sun? It really depends on how they got infected, what that infection does to their body.
There's everything. One thing with the I Am Legend zombie vampires is they can die through body shots. You don't have to hit them in the head.
True. I mean, is that important? Because, like, that's another distinction. Like, does it matter whether or not you can kill them with a shot to the face or a shot with a chest?
Well, and that kind of rounds us back to the beginning of this episode where I said, I do stand behind the, flesh rotting zombies, but I also really enjoy the fact that they are still livable, ticking beings with blood. Because when you think about it, they're eating blood, they're drinking blood, they're getting fuel. With a zombie, when they lose all their blood, you dehydrate. You've got no fluids to lubricate your muscles and stuff like that. So, like, you see, like, rotting zombies go from, like, in the very beginning stages, like, super fast, wah, and then over the years, it's it's very slow. So I like the concept that it not only can keep the being alive, it can keep the being, heart pumping, blood flowing, movable. But I think it opens up the door to evolution, zombie evolution.
Evolution, baby.
Right? Yeah, okay, so, like, I can kind of see that shift in the zombie mode. So I think that this season, that ZOMBcast for season 1, you guys are going to love, because we are going to cover all the bases.
Yeah.
We're really going to dive super deep into, how does it start too? Like that's a big thing. It's like, does it start because of a lab breakout? Does it start because of hell got too full of souls? Does it start because, like what is the catalyst that brought the zombie apocalypse on? I think that's important. I think that's important. Yeah.
So, I mean, that is certainly what we think about zombies, what we think constitutes zombies. So the type of movies, video games, and so forth, that can be what you can expect us to cover. Like Kevin said, if you'd like us to cover something, you would like us to, do anything, let us know. We'll look at it, and then maybe we'll have a discussion on whether or not this constitutes as a zombie movie and or film, whatever you send us. Yeah. So keeping that in mind, 2 big questions. First one, what was your first zombie movie?
So my first zombie movie, I, for the life of me, cannot remember the name. And that's the movie that I'm really hoping that going through this adventure,
you'll find.
I'll find it. And I'm hoping that you guys, the fans here, can help me find this movie. It's in my opinion, it was one of my favorite zombie movies. These survivors are on an island, but it's a pretty populated island with like buildings and stuff. And there's tunnels underground, and there's also alligators. And that's kind of how they like escape the horde. Is they
are they ZOMBcators?
I don't remember too much about that. I mean, I was probably like 8 or 9 when I saw this.
Oh, gotcha. Right.
Coming up in the 90s, we got to see movies way at an early age that we probably shouldn't have.
Right.
So this movie would be like my number one, like first seen zombie movie of all time. Like that's probably the first one I saw. Now, my favorite zombie movie to date.
Technically, I didn't ask you that question, but go on.
Okay, fine. What's your first zombie movie, sir? No, you're right. I was looking.
He's looking ahead at the notes, people.
I was looking at the notes.
Don't skim forward. So my first, I was actually a late bloomer when it comes to zombie movies because my first zombie movie was actually the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead. So that was actually my first experience, and then I kind of just blossomed out from there. I looked backwards, I looked forwards, but that was kind of the very first like catalyst of what I did. Now, kind of branching off of that, my first zombie experience was actually Resident Evil 2. So that was the first time it's like, okay, this is what a zombie is. Okay, you get bitten, that's bad, and so that was kind of my first introduction into zombies, which made me want to go see Dawn of the Dead. You know what I mean?
So when it comes to like, I didn't even think about the video games. My first introduction to like zombies as a game, as a playable, was Sega Genesis. My Neighbor is a Zombie, or something like that.
Okay. Zombies Ate My Neighbor.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Zombies. Yeah, I think it was Zombies Ate My Neighbor. And like you literally ran around, you could grab like lawnmowers, run them over, and they were just, and it was an over the top, just playthrough. And I think that was my first playable zombie game.
Nice.
Interaction with a zombie. My first zombie comic book, we didn't touch on that. That would be Dawn of the Dead, and you brought that to my eyes. Or not Dawn of the Dead, Left 4 Dead. The Walking Dead. Jesus! Yeah, The Walking Dead. You brought The Walking Dead to me as a graphic novel, and man, I mean, we powerhouse through that thing.
Oh yeah, both of us got super addicted to that before the show came out. So we're those hipsters that like
in the zombie world.
We liked Walking Dead before it was cool.
Yeah, and then they crapped out the freaking second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it later, okay? I promise. I will let you free.
We've got a lot to say.
So then my first zombie comic, I think I agree that would be my first zombie comic. So then now let's go forward in the notes. What is your favorite zombie? Let's say just property of all time. So it could be a game, it could be a comic, what is your favorite property? And then we can break it down after that.
I'm a pretty goofy guy. So I would say like my favorite, it's a massive tie. I'm going to let everybody know now. It's a massive tie, but being put on the spot with one thing that I could pick, just one. Shaun of the Dead.
Good freaking choice. Good choice.
Just because they literally followed the zombie pick all the way through, but they gave you so much good humor out of it. The very end when he's playing video games with the zombie friend, that's why I feel like zombies have a memory. They've got to have something. But yeah, Shaun of the Dead. Oop, I smacked my stuff. Shaun of the Dead is definitely, that'd be my favorite.
Yeah.
Yourself. What about yourself, Nick?
I'd have to agree with Shaun of the Dead. It's a really good choice. But honestly, I think one of my favorite zombie movies of all time and property in general is actually Land of the Dead.
Land of the Dead is so good, man.
I love the idea that after a while, they started remembering who they used to be. Like it wasn't at the beginning. It wasn't at the beginning of the apocalypse. It was after a while, like their brains had time to like calm down, because at first it was like, I need to feed. But then after a while, their brains started to kind of evolve in a certain way. And so that's what I really like. And technically you start getting that in Day of the Dead, but I hadn't seen that at the point. But then Land of the Dead, it was kind of the, it was the magnum opus of, George A. Romero because
high-functioning zombies.
Yeah. So, I mean, that one I really like. Not only that, but it was the first time we saw, like, a zombie movie well after, or at least I guess the first time I had seen a zombie movie well after the infection started. Because almost every zombie movie I had seen up to that point was, hey, this is how it started. This is what's going on at the very beginning. You know what I mean? And so that was the first time I was like, I think it's set 10 or 15 years after the zombie apocalypse. So now society has basically rebuilt itself around this giant tower, and then seeing that fall throughout the movie or whatever was just a really cool experience.
Well, not only that, it's very satisfying because you see who runs the tower, and you're just like, that man is straight garbage. Favorite character? Who's your favorite character from Land of the Dead?
Land of the Dead? Whoever Leguizamo played.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure it was John Leguizamo because that honestly,
it's like that's the only answer. You can't say anything else.
And I can't think of the actor's name, but the burn guy that licks his thumb and then puts reflectivity on his sights.
Oh right, yeah.
That is totally cool, man. He's totally cool. Did you know that Simon Pegg is a zombie in Land of the Dead?
Yes.
Okay. Fun fact for all you fans: Simon Pegg, zombie. Google it, look it up, see where he's at. No, and I stand behind you. That Land of the Dead is on the list of the tie between Shaun of the Dead, Land of the Dead. Nice. Video games come into play with that, like Left 4 Dead.
I mean, favorite of all time, Left 4 Dead. But if we're talking just like more traditional, I guess, zombies, even though I'm kind of screwing myself by saying traditional. But Dying Light, I think, is one of my favorite zombie games of all time.
Fantastic. Dead Island as well hit that zombie node really, really hard. And I mean, you can say a lot between like Dying Light and Dead Island. It's like, hey, it's the same game. You bought the same game with different graphics. That's kind of true.
Dying Light was just so much cooler. There's a little bit more emphasis on like you could craft or which obviously you could do that in Dead Island. But I really like the traversal. Because it's like if you're surviving in a zombie apocalypse, it would make sense to be like really ripped and like really good at parkour because then it's like, well, you can't bite me. I'm way the F up here.
You can't. Well, that and it's like you have a horde coming after you and you have like 2 hard walls and a gated fence. You're gonna have to learn to get out of hard situations.
Yep, definitely.
So using your body to get through your environment, I think, is going to be key in surviving a zombie apocalypse.
Right. Definitely.
I think that and engineering. I think you need to become somewhat of an engineer to survive the zombie apocalypse because you're going to have to know how to rig power, how to make weapons. I mean, literally, an engineer is a must. Which you see heavily in Land of the Dead. You see a lot of those guys are engineers.
Definitely.
And they know how to run like very high powered equipment. So Oh man, I'm getting excited. Getting excited.
Yep, it's all coming very soon to a podcast near you.
And YouTube. And if you want us in your home, invite us over for spaghetti.
Spaghetti, which is really just food's brain.
Yeah, honestly. It's spaghetti. Ooh, that's another good topic I think we should cover this season. And this is just on the fly for you guys. I think we may cover foods that could be zombie-esque. Spaghetti, totally a zombie food.
Spaghetti.
Right? Yeah. Lasagna.
For sure.
Anything with marinara is a zombie food. And that wraps up that episode.
Right. So then, might be a shorter list because there's not a lot of them, but favorite zombie TV show? Yeah, not much to choose from because I feel like we have 4 maybe to choose from.
Well, there's that Daybreakers too. That's on Netflix.
Yeah.
With Matthew Broderick, which like when it started out, I was okay with that show, and then like it took a weird turn, and I wasn't okay with it anymore. So we'll see about that. Honestly, it's a toss up between Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead.
Yeah. For me, for the longest time, it was The Walking Dead. But actually, for me, Black Summer is probably one of my favorite zombies.
I have not seen Black Summer yet.
Well, you will, because that'll be part of the show, for sure.
I'm excited.
But what I love about Black Summer is that most of their episodes are comprised of a single shot.
Yeah.
Ooh, so one camera going through the entire episode, essentially, and they never cut away. Like, I love that.
Wearing a harness with the thing that comes down and a camera right here in front of his face. I guarantee that's what it is.
I don't know, something like. But yeah, most of the time it's one shot, and the way they work with that and the ingenuity they have to do. Like there's a couple of cuts, but like there are so many very long cuts that's like they had to rehearse and they had to be on their fucking game, and it just made every moment where they're like getting emotional even more believable, because it's like they didn't look over to this person, then what's this person's reaction, what's that person's
are we talking like Blair Witch Project emotional, where it's like you're up her nose and you see snot?
No, it's not an actual camera, it's just like it's still a TV show where the camera is omniscient, you know what I mean, but it's one camera.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one camera throughout the entire episode.
I'm excited. I'm excited for this.
It's a good one, and I really like it. Yeah, so that's it. Oh. That's all. That's actually the episode. That a little bit to know about us and what we think about zombies. So now we obviously want to pass a question off to you.
Yes.
At the bottom of the screen, if you're watching us, that's how you get a hold of us. You can go to @TX3 Productions on Twitter, ThreatX3 Productions on YouTube, ThreatX3 on Twitch. We always do some twitching. Or you can look in the description down below for our Discord, and you can go there. But we want to hear from you guys. What's your favorite zombie movie, game, whatever? What's the very first one you ever saw? And what do you personally think constitutes a zombie? Let us know down in the comments down below, or get a hold of us in any way you like to.
Yep.
All right. So next episode, episode 1, will be us discussing what was the very first zombie movie, and we'll be going off the rules that we have established here. So is it infectious? Are they undead? And all these rules that we established this time, we have to figure out, well, what is the first zombie movie? Because it's a little harder when you have to go by those rules. Yep. You think it would be easy because like White Zombie, it's like, oh well, that's obviously about zombies. So
that's why I said as well in the beginning of the episode, I'm setting it as a precursor for all you guys that these rules are subject to change.
Definitely.
Because we may discover something that we did not know or that we didn't conceive. And that's why we're asking for heavy influence. That's why we're asking for you guys to be a part of it, because we want to know how, as a community, we're going to survive it. Because Nick and I, we could plant ourselves in a building, scavenge hunt, and do everything by ourselves, sure. I like the community aspect, and I want to see what you guys think. I think that's important.
But yeah, please come back to us as often as possible. Give us a review. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Whatever you can. It would be a big help for us. Thank you guys so much for listening. I was one of your hosts, Nick.
And I'm the other guy, Kevin.
And make sure you got to check your corners.
Always give them the double tap.
And don't get bit. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ZOMBcast. I am one of your hosts, Nick. Here with me today is my undead buddy.
Hi, I'm Kevin, guys. Hi. We're going to talk about zombies.
Zombies. We're going to talk about zombies on this episode.
Wait. Zombies?
Yes, zombies.
Like, zombies?
Yeah. Big ones, small ones.
Zombies without legs?
Yes!
Oh my god, it's zombies without legs.
So more specifically, in our episode 0, our introductory episode, you got to know us a little bit, but you also got to know, like, what we thought about zombies. Like, what do we consider to be a traditional zombie? There's some untraditional ones out there, and we definitely want to cover those as well. Yes. But what do we consider to be the traditional, more mainstream version of a zombie? So what do we consider to be the first zombie movie there? So we're going to go through a couple. We got a nice, real big list. If you look here, I got my Wikipedia, which you can always trust them. I mean, they are the source for PDA.
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
What is that? They have the best pedia.
Yes, they have the best pedias.
Well, I find that wiki to be a nice collective place for the people to congregate, and you do find some funny things, but you also find some accurate information, some very accurate information.
For sure.
We did find the list.
The list.
We're calling it
There's
the list.
many lists out there, but this list is my list. Other lists are not lists.
No,
and then lists are lists. Okay, if you didn't know already.
List. They're lists.
If you didn't know already, this is a serious zombie conversation. What we're going to be talking about is all the chemicals that they put into the air to turn us into zombies.
And the frogs.
The frogs are gay. No, this is we're gonna have fun on this show. And so let's start that fun off with really trying to figure out what was the first zombie movie. And let's get this episode 1. So that's the question. What's the first zombie movie?
What do we do when we go by zombie movie? Do we go by year? Do we go by class definition? Do we go by name title? And the list gave us that. The very first movie on the list by Wikipedia, and the list is literally called...
Hold on. I'm not going to trust a list unless I see your kiss somewhere on here.
The kiss? Is it on your list? So the list is called List of Zombie Films. It's off of Wikipedia. It is a good list.
It's on screen right now.
It's very much on screen. And the by definition that they have, and the first movie that they list, if you list it in yearly order, the first movie pops up 1932, White Zombie. Wow. Yeah. So that would be, by their definition, first zombie movie.
Yes.
How do we feel about that?
How do we feel about the White Zombie being the first zombie movie?
Yes. How do
First
we feel
off, I feel like they forgot one, because if we go to our Zombie 101, is that where I found it? No. Here we go. In the Zombie 101, it's also on screen right now. So if you're an audio listener, just trust us. It's on screen.
Yeah, it's on. It's right.
By their technical definition, we do have a movie called The Cabinet of Dr. Calgary. And now this one does seem to be a living dead that somebody controls, and he goes and kidnaps a woman,
yes.
Which seems to happen a lot in the very early zombie movies, is that somebody's controlling it in some way. Somebody's controlling an undead corpse. Is that a zombie? Is it not a zombie? That's obviously what we're going to be talking about. But in this particular one, Cabinet of Dr. Calgary is an undead, some kind of undead. How he died, I don't think it matters. He literally raises from a coffin, steals a woman, and then takes it back to the guy. So, if we're going by like a voodoo zombie type of definition, then actually this is an incomplete list because it doesn't bring up the Cabinet of Calgary. And I want to say it was somewhere in the... Do I have the year somewhere? I don't think I was able to get the years. Because even right here, if I highlight it, although in the 1920s, the Cabinet of Calgary. So somewhere in the 1920s, I don't know if I was able to get the exact year. So
I'm going to see if I can find it here.
Okay. Let's do a little fact checking. So by that, they forgot one. If we're going by the definition of, the voodoo zombie.
I found a Cabinet of Dr. Calgary that was a 2005.
I'm going to say that's a remake.
No, it's even done in black and white.
Okay, so it must have been like remastered or something? Because, yeah, it's a silent film. That's how far back it goes.
It was. I want to say you were right with 1929. Is a 1920 German silent horror film. So it's 1920.
There we go.
And that's what we have based off of Wikipedia. Yeah, I got it pulled up right here.
Okay. So that one is. So if we going back to what you were saying, we go back to White Zombie, 1932, directed by Victor Helbern. The poster itself, a guy, he has really big eyes,
black sleek clothing.
So if we're going just by that, it's like nothing really invokes zombie there other than the literal word zombie now. And then if we look into it further to the the description, it does seem like there is a single zombie or a single undead, that somebody raises because he wants to go steal a woman. Once again, very common back in the day of the original zombies.
Yes.
They steal the women to come, and I think he ends up turning her into a zombie herself, but is somehow able to get out of the trance and turn back into a regular lady. So, very interesting there. So since there's so many zombie movies, we did kind of choose which ones we wanted to choose or talk about. What was the one that you were going to talk about?
So I have one called, I don't know how to pronounce it. Oyonga. It was written, the director, I believe that is Victor Halperin. Came out in 1936. Thing is, there is no way to, so
I Googled it. I went ahead and Googled it. I have it up on screen. So here's the poster for it. Meet Sylvie, naive, young, and beautiful, lithe, yielding, primitive, love, hunger, child of the tropics. So this is in the tropics. That's another thing that the early zombie films seem to have in correlation with each other is African American voodoo zombies.
And this one does take, you're right. Yeah. In Haiti, a black female plantation owner enacts a voodoo curse and revives zombies for revenge on a white male neighbor who has chosen a white woman over her for marriage. Which, I mean, you don't be playing around with no woman like that, man. You can't be playing two women like that, bro. First off. So again, this is the mind controlled zombies, which when you go based off of what Nick and I kind of said, how we kind of feel a zombie is taken over, I put in perspective that mind control is still a zombie if they have the other basis qualities that we kind of define.
Yeah, they have to be dead. I mean, I feel like that's number one, right?
Dead. I think you have to be a reanimated corpse. You have to be a reanimated corpse. But traditionally, I was like, no, you had to be bitten. It had to be some type of bacteria. I don't know. after viewing some of these things, I kind of like, okay, well, maybe like mind control can happen as long as you have those other predispositions. So, again, not quite the same thing as what we're looking for, but they do claim that they are revived zombies. So, is it technically a zombie movie? No, but it's in that classification. It received that classification. And again, this one isn't, it's not necessarily like go steal the girl, but it is still like, why didn't you pick me?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
me? I'm a good guy.
yeah. So it's still in some ways kind of goes under that classification of like kind of like steal the girl. It's not really, it's very much damsel in distress. Well, no, this isn't damsel in distress. This is definitely not that. This is damsel getting pissed off because she was distressed and he didn't come rescue her.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, he sounds like a jerk. To me,
right?
He sounds
grade
like a
jerk, I say.
Yeah, grade A piece of crap.
So the next one we had is Revolt of the Zombies.
Yes.
This one was 1936, directed by a Victor Halbert. So this is actually the same. Looks like the follow-up to White Zombie.
Yeah.
In 1936, American horror film directed and produced by Halbert Brothers, which stars Gene Jagger, I believe the grandfather of Mick, and Dorothy Stone. It is one of the earliest zombie films, although it was conceived as a loose sequel to Victor's White Zombie. So this does still include a zombie. If I'm going by the poster alone, it definitely looks like there's some creepers going on. Because it has this giant head, and he has red eyes, and then, of course, there's the scantily clad woman. So this definitely seems to be maybe going along the lines of there's going to be another kidnapping or something. So let's look at the plot.
Looking into the plot, I mean, you know, that's kind of what it says. It still kind of involves that secret formula you were talking about from the first movie. A student of dead languages. So he speaks Latin.
I guess so. Either that or it is a dead language.
Oh, too soon, buddy.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, that one's also voodoo. A lot of the early ones do seem to be voodoo heavy. It went out of order of year. It's because I clicked on something else. All right, so what's your next one that you wanted to take?
So the next one I actually have is called The Devil's Daughter, which is a remake of Owangi.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Owangi. The Devil's Daughter, also known as Pocomania, is a 1939 American film directed by Arthur H. Leonard. The plot summary is Sylvia Walton, Ida James, of Harlem inherits a Jamaican banana plantation. All right. So she inherits a Jamaican banana plantation and returns to manage it. Since her arrival, there's been no sign of her disinherent half-sister, Isabel, which is Nina Mae McKinney. If you guys know who they are, congratulations. You have really old parents and awesome grandparents for teaching you history, who ran the plantation until their father's death. But Sylvia, her two rival suitors, and her comic relief servant Percy are disturbed by the constant growing sound of drums, which can be heard singing on excerpt of the Devil's Daughter soundtrack. So there is a soundtrack.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we may have to find the soundtrack for you guys and plug this in at some point. But I mean, but again, we're looking at the same thing. It's, I think, which I don't really understand, because if it's a remake, this is like two sisters and a dad dying, but I don't hear anything about a love entanglement. There's no love entanglement. Now, the growing sound of drums from the jungle, like that's voodoo because it's the freaking Jamaican banana plantation.
Right. I mean, but if they get to the end, they can yell out Jumanji and everything's going to be okay.
Everything's going to be fixed. Everything's going to be fixed. Zombie.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, I tried. So, we do have that. We do have that, and I think that's kind of neat. Okay, so on the list of next, what do we have?
Looks like the next one's yours as well.
Oh. No, we can go to yours and then we'll bounce back to mine.
Well, let's go by year.
All right, go by year. So 1943, we got Revenge of the Zombies.
Revenge.
of the Zombies. It's a 1943 horror film directed by Steve Seekely, starring John Carradine and Gail Storm. Dr. Max Heinrich. No, it's Heinrich.
Heinrich.
There's lobster. Von Alterman, John Carradine, is a mad scientist working to create a race of living dead warriors for the Third Reich.
It's Nazi zombies.
It's Nazi zombies. All right.
Is this our first official Nazi zombie?
I think
because all the other ones have been like Haitian or some kind of voodoo zombie.
Yeah.
So now this is like a mad scientist. We got Nazi zombies.
The film was a follow-up to the horror comedy King of the Zombies. Ooh, we should have covered that.
Comedy?
Bring it up.
Okay.
You know what to do. With Matten Moreland reprising his role as Jeff and Madame Solte Wan returning as the different character. Okay, so the plot. After the death of Max's wife, Lilla, he holds a funeral for her. However, he has also turned her into a zombie. He is amazed when Lilla shows signs of free will and challenges him for control. In excitement, Dr. Keating goes missing after entering a tomb of which should not have been entered. During dinner, Scott Warrington finds a radio in Max's cabinet and figures out that it communicates to Hitler. Max learns of this and gags and ties up Scott Lazarus. Max's right-hand man finds a gun while making soup with Rosa.
Putting up a soup plantation in this one. This is a very specific plot summary.
Jeff finds Scott bound and gagged in a closet, and he tells Jeff about the situation.
Sounds like
Max
a good
discovers this and tries to flee the swamp. Lilla and the hordes of zombies pursue Max, and both Max and Lilla end up sinking into the quicksand. So we got death. We got hordes of zombies. We got Nazis.
Right.
Okay.
This is interesting purely for the Nazi zombie. The fact that this is now a mad... So we've gone from voodoo now to a mad scientist. Like we're getting closer to the fact that it's some type of infection, some type of like it's taken over your body through means of an infection. So we're getting more close to the traditional zombie, even though we haven't heard anything about somebody eating. You know, we haven't heard about, cannibalism quite yet. So we're getting close, though. We're getting really close.
We're getting up there. I do like the plot of this movie, though. This actually does sound interesting. I wouldn't say good. The part that lost me was Max's right-hand man finds a gun while making soup with Rosella. Like, who's like, hey, you want to make some chicken noodle soup?
It's such a random...
There's a gun.
Detail that we really didn't need to know. Like, oh, I'm making soup. Look, a gun.
And if you guys don't believe me, if you literally are questioning me, go to Revenge of the Zombies on Wikipedia. Yeah. Read through the plot. It's right there. Plain as day. Jeez. But we do have the swamp. Mac discovers this and tries to flee to the swamp. So he's in the swamp. So we're still kind of fighting that whole perspective. But there's hordes of zombies. The word hordes of zombies.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder, like, how did that happen? How did that infection spread? How did that?
Well, yeah. And so since it was a mad scientist, did he spread it? Did he make each one of those?
To one? Yeah. Yep. Or did one of them spread it to another? It doesn't really give me that information. So again, is it a zombie movie? I think like halfway.
Yeah.
Like halfway. I think halfway it meets the spectrum.
Yeah, definitely meets the spectrum. And as far as the only question we don't have known is how it spreads, or if it spreads, because it once again could just be a brainless zombie.
Yes.
You know, but still very interesting as far as like we're learning the history as we go. So next one I kind of randomly chose was Zombies on Broadway, just because it sounded so goddamn stupid.
I mean, I'm not gonna argue with the name A Zombie on Broadway, but looking at the image, is that Abbott and Costello? No, it's not. It kind of looked. Oh, it's Bela Lugosi and Alan Carney. Okay, but looking at the poster, zombie or creepy vampire.
Yeah, I know. That almost looks more like a vampire because it's all gray. It doesn't even look like maybe it's wearing clothes, at least in that shot.
Well, and
but
the ears.
We're back to the kidnapping a woman though, because he's not trying to eat the woman. He's trying to take her somewhere.
That's what it looks like.
That's what it looks like. Leads me to believe that it's mind control. Yeah. I mean, let's look real close.
Is that a skeleton behind him?
Curated. Lives in the Caribbean islands. Yep, we're going back to.
So what's the plot? Give us the plot.
Here we go. The boys are threatened with death unless they produce a real zombie. They discover a lead in the museum curator, that mysterious Professor Renault, lives in the Caribbean island of San Sebastian and has been creating zombies. So there we go, creating zombies.
Okay. So this has been something he's been doing.
Immediately place tramp blah blah. Back. Forfeit their lives. Upon arrival, they meet the beautiful cabaret singer.
Ooh, cabaret singer.
Let's pause it here. Hi, guys. May I help you? Okay. Don't shake our baby to death. Damn. Hi. Hi. Oh. Whoa. What's that? What's that over there?
We're saying hi.
I love you, girls.
Love you too.
Love you, Daddy.
Love you too, sweetie. Okay. And unpause. What was the last thing I was talking about?
In exchange for helping Professor Renault, Gene wants.
Oh yeah.
So you're creating
capture. Strangers become zombified by being under the spell. There we go. That's the key.
Under the spell.
I think that's the key phrase right there. It's not an infection, it's a spell. So they could say, and boom, you're under the spell. So not traditional zombie, but
this one
it does seem like... See, it's so funny that the phrase, you better produce me a real zombie, and it's like, oogada boogada. It's like, that's a zombie.
Well, this is on Broadway. This
is on Broadway. Broadway. All right, what's our next one?
We're getting zombie musicals now.
Yeah.
So the next one's actually Valley of the Zombies, which is another one of yours.
It is. Let me see. What is it? Valley of the Zombie.
Now, this is an interesting poster.
That is a very interesting poster. I'm going to say, without even reading, I'm going to say that's a voodoo zombie, because why would he have a knife?
It could be a phantom. Oh, that's a valid point. And that knife was like red crystal. So, but here's the thing. He's a phantom. Look at the cloak. He's a phantom.
Right?
He's a phantom zombie.
Valley of Zombies is a 1946 American horror film directed by Philip Ford, written by Dorrell. I don't care who wrote it.
Well, freaking care, damn it.
There is no plot. Wiki. You done let me down.
You let us down.
So now the only thing we can go by is the fact that there's a zombie in the namesake. But if I'm going by that, that has to be some kind of mind control, because it's just a guy in a cloak with a dagger, and then right up in the left corner there's some guy like waving his fingers. So I'm saying we're still in the voodoo era of zombies.
Here we go. I found a brief synopsis of it.
Good.
I went to the bottom of it in the reference guide. Dr. Maynard tells Dr. Terry Evans and his nurse, Susan Drake, about the theft of 10 points of blood from his lab. Later, he is visited by Ormond Merks, a man Maynard had committed to an insane asylum, who later died from an operation. And Maynard learns that Merks is an example of the living death, whose abnormality is counteracted only by blood. The doctor soon becomes Merck's unwilling blood donor. Merck's brother, Fred, threatens to expose him, and he too is murdered. Terry and Susan find Maynard's body near an abandoned graveyard, and this leads them to an estate where a partially obscured sign reads Merck's Brothers Undertakers. Susan is kidnapped.
So
dun
Dum
they're talking more about blood than they are like eating or infecting other people or something like that.
True.
So
true.
Yeah, might be still. All right, next one.
I think it's coming about halfway onto our list of meeting the zombies.
Right.
So the next one's going to be the Woman Eater, which is one of mine.
You're a man eater.
So the Woman Eater was also known as Woman Eater on its original UK release, is a low-budget 1958 black and white British horror film directed by Charles Saunders.
That poster, dude, like
the poster
what is up with
is yeah, the poster.
That's some kind of a creature. Neat. That's not Zambi at all.
I can't really even tell.
Well, it's got like 2 hands
or antlers.
Yeah, right? Like what is that?
That may be antlers.
Sorry for the audio listeners. It's like the right hand has like 2 antlers coming out of it. It looks like it's covered in some kind of like seaweed,
moss or it's kind of like a black and white gossamer with multiple antler hands.
So I'm gonna go by the poster and just be like, nah, I'm not.
Nah,
bruh. It might in fact eat. This is the first mention of eating, but that is not a zombie. I'm sorry.
Okay,
you cannot convince me otherwise.
So here we go. This is going to be the plot of the movie. At the Explorers Club in London, Dr. Morgan tells the other members about a tribe in the depths of the Amazon jungle, which has a miracle-working juju that can bring the dead back to life, and that he's going on an expedition to get it. So voodoo. We have voodoo.
We got voodoo.
He finds the tribe and witnesses a secret ceremony in which a young woman entranced by beating drums is consumed by a large carnivorous tree. That's a tree, buddy.
Okay.
That's a tree that eats people.
Gotcha.
Moran then nearly dies from jungle fever. 5 years later, recovered and back in Britain at his manor house, Moran is experimenting with the tree. Well, that's gross. Ew. Well, probably not that experimenting. He has brought it and the tribal drummer Tunga back from the Amazon. So I think this is going under the.
Well, especially if it involves a tree, that's voodoo.
However, the experiment fails. A dead heart into which Moran injects the serum revives, but dies again after a short time. So
we're thinking Frankenstein almost.
There's a serum now. There's a serum involved. Moran denies any knowledge of this girl that he had killed. That night at the local fun fair, Sally Norton is working at a sideshow, dancing in a hula to attract customers when she takes a break. Jack Venner, who has fallen in love with her at first sight, introduces himself, but when the sideshow, this is not important to the story apparently.
Yeah.
Jack bests him in a fist fight, which costs Sally her job. Jack suggests that she see Moran about becoming an assistant to Moran's housekeeping, which is that doctor. Moran gives Sally the job over the objections of Margaret. That's good to know. Good on him for giving her a job. So basically, I mean, there's a serum. There is voodoo that he extracts from the tree. He can raise the dead, but the result is a mindless zombie. Our secret is it's a mindless zombie. So I don't know if they're just wandering around. But it doesn't seem that they're aggressive in most release. It just sounds like they're just mindless. I think the shock and awe factor is the giant people eating tree.
Right.
That seems weird. So and the voodoo and serum it kind of feels just kind of overladen with a bunch of stuff that didn't need to be there as far as like a zombie movie. Is it a zombie movie? I'd say no. I'd say no. I'd say this is a creature monster flick. Yeah, it's a monster flick. I don't know. It's not a zombie flick.
All right. So then the next one I see is my chosen one. So Zombies of Morotua, directed by Edward L. Kahn in 1957. So I don't have a poster for that.
Look
Yeah,
at
no,
that
I do have a
poster.
poster. It does look like off to the right we have a few of them.
Okay,
so,
but what's the red lettering? Terror on the African Voodoo Coast.
Yep. We're still
They
getting
gave it
into...
away.
Yep.
They gave it away.
That gave it away right there.
I mean, Moratau, though. Moratau, again, you're looking at those, like, exotic islands. So I think that also kind of gives it away that it's going to be somewhat of a voodoo flick.
Yeah, so basically it looks like the ship's undead crew, now zombies, who are forced to guard the treasure until the diamonds are destroyed or the curse is finally... So this is almost like Pirates of the Caribbean, essentially. So
yeah, actually.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, that's exactly what this is.
Alrighty.
After a team of deep-sea divers led by a wealthy American tycoon salvage a fortune in diamonds from a record... Yeah, I mean, come on. Disney.
Yeah, right?
Disney. Come on.
All right, so then the next one.
All right. Next one. Plan 9 from outer space.
Yeah,
I've been excited about this one.
The poster itself is extremely weird just because it's just like... We do see a graveyard, I guess, right there.
Okay, so they do come from the graveyard. Okay, so I watched this movie from start to finish. I actually found it to be a fairly decent movie for its time. If you've ever seen like Mystery Science Theater 3000, you ever seen that? Right. Okay, so literally Melissa and I Mystery Science Theater 3000 this movie all the way through.
Nice.
But the thing is I still got the point, and it was still a decent movie. Okay. It's a 1959 American independent science fiction horror film written and produced, directed, and edited by Ed Wood. Freaking Ed Wood, knocking one out of the ballpark. First off, did everything on this movie, short from acting in it, I think. So you're looking at the poster, right? And the poster, you've got a spaceman, you've got Elvira, the vampire lady, some nice jets. Okay. Let me give you the synopsis.
Okay.
And we're not going to go off the plot of this. I'm just going to tell you right now. So They're flying a ship, and they see alien saucers come in. And these alien saucers didn't really do anything. They just kind of like hovered around, and like our military, the government, shot at them and tried to blow them up. Well, this civilization tried to contact Earth. These alien people who are very similar to aliens, but they speak a different language. Although when they speak in the movie, they still speak English. So I don't... Okay, so they try to contact Earth, and Earth develops a machine that lets them know, like, or that can translate it, and Earth knows what they're saying, but they still fight them. They're not like accepting of them, and there's really crappy lines throughout the movie. It's like, when we go in there, if I see any little green men, I'm shooting first and asking questions later. And it's like, what? It's like, hold on there, guy. Calm down, Sideshow. That's another part. There, when they do shoot, one of the cops is literally shooting, and he's just looking. He has his gun right here. He's like, bow, 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 bow. He's not aiming,
right?
Nothing. And the guy goes, I shot all my rounds into him. And the other cop goes, yeah, me too, kid. And the guy got beat up. Oh, it's just so funny. Okay,
right.
Like it's pretty bad for a zombie movie. No, it's 100% like, okay, so they are living dead. Mm-hmm. So because like Earth won't communicate, these aliens decide to reanimate corpses, and they only did 2 at first. They did an old man and a woman, and the woman, when you're looking at the poster, is the Elvira lady.
Okay.
I don't know if it's actually Elvira, but it looked pretty dang close. Like I had to ask my wife. I was like, "Is that Elvira?" Mm-hmm. And I think she agreed that it might have been Elvira. I have sound on the other side of my wall, so if you hear that, I apologize. Sorry. So they have the Elvira lady. Well, then the other guy that comes out, if you look at the bottom of the poster, you see the guy with the cape and how it's like pulled up around his neck and how he's going for that other guy.
Right.
Okay, so he walks around with the cape over his face like this.
Now, do you know why?
There's no description of why.
Okay. Well, I know why, so I was just wondering if you were able to...
Okay, why?
Okay. So apparently Bela Lugosi filmed some things for a completely separate movie and then died during the making of this movie. So all the scenes that are supposed to be Bela Lugosi are some stand-in, and they just he covers his face. There's one scene with Bela Lugosi at the very beginning, and it's so vague that it could have been a part of a completely separate movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, didn't know that. That's really neat.
That's a little FF for you. Fun fact.
Vampira. Okay. Vampira. It's not Elvira, it's Vampira, which I guess is Elvira's twin sister.
I don't know.
So either way, so we got aliens creating zombies. There's another zombie that's in this movie. He's like a really, really big guy. He's got blood on his head. Like, out of all three of them, I feel like he is the closest, like, physically related one.
Physical manifestation of a zombie?
I guess, yeah. So, like, the thing is he's completely mind controlled through, like, a laser gun type thing. And, like, that's how they get them to do what they want. So it's mind controlled through lasers or sound waves. And when he attacks, he doesn't bite, he doesn't grab or punch.
Right, okay.
He does this thing where he raises his arms and he goes wham, and he just smacks you to the ground. Like, that's it. And then he just takes capture of you and carries you off.
So there you go. We got they were getting carried away rather than outright like cannibalize or scratches or anything like that.
But at the same time, is this a zombie movie? I think partially.
Yeah.
I think that there's like a 10 to 20% ratio of zombie movie.
Right.
All right. That will bring us to the next one.
Which is The Curse of the Doll People.
Yes.
The Curse of the
Doll People. Interesting title. Or interesting poster.
I mean, first off, we're going by the name. It's probably most certainly
Voodoo?
Voodoo.
Yeah.
The story surrounds 4 men who are cursed by a voodoo priest for stealing a sacred idol for his temple. Soon after being summoned, evil doll people begin to kill their... Now, hold on. They're not controlled. It's evil doll people, so that's interesting.
Yeah, like what?
So it's not even zombies for that matter. Like,
well, okay, but what if the doll people is just a verbal reference to reanimated corpses, right?
Could be.
So I think in that perspective, like maybe, what do we have for references down here? The Zombie Movie Encyclopedia. I'm not going to go through all that crap.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, from that, it really does seem pretty obvious it's voodoo. So it is interesting to see just how many quote-unquote zombies back in the day were really just, here's a corpse, let me control it. But what would have really been interesting is if any of these like got free and then went to go create other zombies, then it would be at least a little bit closer to the actual like standard, or not standard, but more traditional zombie. So, then the next one.
Looks like the next two are going to be me. The Dead One. The Dead One is also known as Blood of the Zombie, is a 1961 American independent horror film written and produced and directed by Barry Mahan, another guy that's holding down the fort. Go you. All right, plot. During a voodoo rite of Kenilworth, so we've immediately got voodoo.
Right. And it's Louisiana, so we're Cajun.
It is Louisiana.
We're Cajun voodoo now.
Mistress of the plantation raises her brother Jonas from the dead. She commands him to kill a woman who is coming to the plantation. The woman is Linda Carrollton, who has just married Monica's cousin, John Carrollton. Oh, good. The cousins. Who will arrive for their honeymoon right after John shows her swinging night spots, blah, blah, blah. Next morning, blah, blah, blah. Stuff you don't need to know.
Yeah.
Monica again summons zombie Jonas and commands him to kill the girl to prevent John from inheriting the plantation. So this actually kind of sounds like a twist off of one of my earlier ones, The Devil's Daughter, which was actually a twist off of Owanga. So is essentially, because the plot, I mean, this sounds like a more ran down plot than what The Devil's Daughter was, but I mean, I could see it's like, you got tangled love interest, you've got voodoo rituals, you don't want them to have the plantation. So again, zombies, I think, no, I think it's a reanimated voodoo doll that's going to kill somebody. I don't see any infectious spread. I don't see any biting or eating. There's no poster to go by.
Right, exactly. So then what's our next one?
So no, that one's a no. Tales of Terror.
Tales of Terror.
Tales of Terror is an interesting poster. The bottom left has that melted skull girl. You got the three actors, like the three main men guy there. Like that guy looks like a scientist.
Right.
The one on the bottom right. Okay. 3 short sequences based on the following pole tales are told Morella the Black Cat.
Oh, so this is an anthology.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Each sequence is introduced via voiceover. Okay, so Morella travels from Boston to reunite with her father in his decrepit and cobweb mansion. She finds him drunk, discoherent, and
skim
depressed.
Through for like undead.
I don't see anything that says undead.
Ooh, resurrected. Morel's body is then resurrected, becoming a
whole. Yep.
This exchange, which now decomposing, where Morella,
her horrified husband. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm looking through the second story here. I don't see
cat. So it might have just been the first story that was Zomb-esque. Here we go. The facts in the case of M. Valor, dying from a painful disease. So we're getting infectious. Yep. We're getting infectious. Between the worlds of the living and the dead. In a trance. Uh-oh.
Yeah, there's a trance that's put on.
Okay.
No.
She refuses something, so that's also...
Yep. He attacks her. Valdemir's putrid body rises from the bed and kills Carmichael. Helen is rescued by Vladimir's physician. So I think we're about 10% maybe. 10% in the realm. 10% in the realm of being a zombie movie. So, because there is like some trance going on, but it does sound like it's an infectious spread. It sounds like we have some infection going on. Okay, so the next two, Last Man on Earth and Rome Against Rome.
Yeah. See, now, Last Man on Earth, what makes this one so interesting... I need to find it now. Oops, I went too far down. Jeez.
Ooh, we're getting down to our last 5, buddy.
Let me mark that. 44. Okay. Okay, I need to find it because that's my problem right now. I lost my space. There we go. Okay, found it. All right, so The Last Man on Earth, that is interesting. Because while it is technically vampires, it's almost the closest thing we've had to zombies, because in this, somebody tries to find the cure for cancer and instead unleashes this undead infection, essentially. So even in the movie, go ahead.
Can I also say like, I think this is the first movie that we've had an actual like iconic horror person. You know what I mean? Like an iconic person that's been in horror films. I mean, we got Vincent Price. Mm-hmm. So not that holds a massive relevance to like whether it's going to be a zombie movie or not, but I feel like it's going to have a little more weight to it because it does have like an aficionado like horror or Vincent Price. I mean, that's an iconic horror actor. Mm-hmm. He's the king of spook. So, Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. I just noticed that, and I'm like, oh crap! What the crap?
So the vampires themselves don't really act like vampires, at least in the sense of they are repelled by garlic, and he kills them with stakes. But we are at least getting closer in the sense of it isn't an infection. It was created by, messing with science. And I think that's the most interesting thing, because the reason, obviously, that he is the last man on Earth is that everybody was turned into vampires, rather. Yes. So even though they are, by the strictest definition, vampires and they're killed by stakes, it is interesting that we're getting a lot closer to a more traditional zombie in the sense of...
Go through the first paragraph of the plot. Go through the first paragraph of the plot. just in that alone,
Yeah.
it's 100% vampire. In the year 1968, every day is the same for Dr. Morgan. He wakes up, marks another day on the calendar, gathers his weapons, and then goes hunting for vampires. Morgan lives in a world where everyone else has been infected by a plague that has turned them into the undead, vampiric creatures that cannot stand sunlight, fear mirrors, and are repelled by garlic. They're vampires. They're vampires, but I still feel that they're somewhat zombie-esque because
which is what I was getting at. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
But yeah.
No, but yeah, that's what I mean. Is that the plague is kind of the key word there? Is that instead of the vampires biting you, and that's what turned everybody into a vampire, it's a plague. Yeah. So I'm sure if we were to watch the whole thing, obviously, I'm sure that bites probably do turn people, but it also sounds like something you can catch.
Yes.
And so I feel like that's the reason it's the closest thing so far to like the first official zombie movie. Yes. Now it's not 100% because we both admit that yes, they don't like sunlight and everything like that, but it's really close as far as like the one before was 10%. This is like 90, maybe even 95%.
Yeah, I'd put it in the 80 to 90%. I would put it up there just because you have a lot of good things there. But what kicks it out of the realm is the fact that they are vampire creatures. Mm-hmm. They cannot stand sunlight, which again, if you look at I Am Legend, they can't stand sunlight either.
Right.
So again, I would not say that you can base a zombie of whether or not they can stand sunlight. I think that you can have both. I think you can have zombies that can't stand sunlight and some zombies that can, right? Like, okay, in the Walking Dead TV show, for example, the zombie that they pulled out of the well, do you remember in like season 2?
Yeah.
Okay. If you think a zombie's been like not in the sun for a long time, maybe that the sun would affect them a little bit more.
You would think. I mean, but then we're getting into, do zombies feel pain? Because then would they be scared of it because they don't like looking at it, or do they not like it because it burns their skin? But if it burns their skin, why do they care?
Can a zombie see? Or do they just smell?
Well, okay, I mean, they could do both if they still have their eyes.
Right. So if they're in, it's just like when we're in like a dark room and then we go out into the sunlight, it like hurts our eyes.
Right.
Do you think that would have a long-term effect on a zombie that's, say, been in a cave for like 6 straight years and then finally manages to like out of the cave? Do you think the sunlight will blind them?
I mean, I think yeah, because if you look at a decaying corpse, it's already decaying in the first place. Yeah. I would imagine a couple years down the road, since it's a decaying corpse, naturally its eyesight's going to be gone anyways, right? So if it's already decaying its eyesight, and then you put it in a cave where it can't see anything, and then you change that environment, put them in the sunlight, I think it would go blind, or at least blind enough.
Right? To keep it from being able to see. It would have to rely on the sense of the nose and the ears. If they still have those. Okay, good topic. And I think that Last Man on Earth kind of really brings a valid like stance to that. So kudos to that movie. Rome Against Rome. This is another one.
Next one, War of the Zombies, and then I guess an alternative name is Rome Against Rome. So what makes this a zombie movie? Let's see. It doesn't have a plot summary, so we're going to have to go into our references. It's reference time. References.
They have footnotes.
I don't know if that helps. Like, this is in the list, the wiki list of zombies, and they have absolutely nothing to back it up other than this is how it was made, and this was the production, but no, like, summary. Like, come on, guys, come on. So now I'm going to have to click on 8 things just to see. Well, that didn't do anything. Okay, I'm going to have to mark it again because I don't want to have to I don't want them listening to us research. Okay, when I click on the first one, footnotes, all it does is bring up the thing, the same page. So that's not
okay. Helping. I went to IMDb.
Okay. Give me a second so I can do that.
I'll try. Good luck with the fucking plot down here too.
Oh, seriously? Damn it.
Yeah. A fantastic yarn about a plot to conquer the world with an army of zombies.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. It said the word zombies.
The barking neighbor's dog's back.
Oh, fuck me.
Taglines: Unconquerable warriors of the dead.
Wow, the poster for it is very voodoo-esque. It's got this big, like, kind of voodoo, or not voodoo, Buddha. God dang it, Buddha-looking statue. It's got like a third eye shining down to the people. It's got this guy in a big, like wizard's cape, and he's like, "Ah!" But this does look like it's zombies. But
Buddha voodoo. It's voodoo.
Buddha-doo-doo-boo. But it does look like they're zombies, and they're using them to at least fight.
Yeah.
But it does look undead. It does not look necessarily like an infection. So, unfortunately, since we can't really see a plot, we're just going to have to move on.
So we've got 3 movies left, mine, yours, then mine. And the movie that is next is The Frozen Dead, came out in 1966, British science fiction horror film. If you look at the poster there, you have frozen alive for 20 years. Now they return from their icy graves to seek vengeance.
Okay.
All right. 20 years.
Nazi scientist.
Yep. They're right off the bat. Nazi scientists. We got some Nazi zombies. Has been experimentally thawing frozen Nazi soldiers who have been kept in suspended animation at his English countryside estate. Since the end of World War II, he is awaiting his superiors, General Lubeck and Captain Turpitz. All right. Again, so they're frozen. I'm scrolling through. Kept organs alive for medical use.
This almost seems like a more of a Frankenstein, because like right here, Nobert later impresses Ted with a wall of amputated human arms, which can control through electric stimulation. So it's like, if we're thinking electric stimulation, it's like, okay, that's more of a Frankenstein type of monster than a straight up zombie.
Yeah, so agreed. I do think that they fall under the perspection of zombies because they were dead. Well, no, they're technically not dead, but they're dead. That's what kind of makes it hardest, because like I guess they're dead, but they were just suspended in animation, so they did die, but they brought them back. So again, it is the Frankenstein aspect. You're right. You have the Frankenstein aspect, but is Frankenstein a zombie?
Right.
Through animation of corpse, reanimated corpse, it's not technically a voodoo zombie.
Technically, yeah.
It's not a vampire zombie. It's a different style. I think this is a different style of zombie because you have like, they're using mass amounts of electrocution to reanimate this corpse, meaning they can't control their mind. They can't be like,
true.
Do all of this. Now, they could probably heavily suggest it, like, it's kind of like if you have a dog.
Would you say they have the power of suggestion?
Yeah. If you feed a dog, eventually the dog's going to understand what sit means, right? So if you feed a Frankenstein, eventually you're going to get it to go with what you want. But it can still get mad at you. It can still attack you and be violently aggressive. May not eat you, but it will rip you apart. Right. So is it a zombie? 30 to 50%?
Yeah, maybe. And the positive side is you might be able to teach it how to do Fun on the Ritz.
More than likely.
References.
Next best Frankenstein movie. It's Frankenstein.
I started saying that to my wife. She didn't get it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, she's too young for that. So next one is The Plague of the Zombies. This one piqued my interest because now we're looking at a plague aspect. But the more you go through... the description, it does say people are dying from a mysterious plague. So they are dying. However, what's bringing them back does seem to be this guy right here in the poster with the red cross. So, Squire.
He practiced. for several years,
Yep.
and lived in Haiti for several years and practiced voodoo rituals as well as black magic.
Yeah. So this does seem, while there is a plague involved, so they're not lying.
No,
It seems like that's what kills them, and then something has to bring them back rather than the infection killing them. And once again, you look at the poster itself, they're capturing the girl, not trying to eat her. So still not quite towards the traditional zombie.
that is a big-chested woman. Like that photo looks weird.
It was the
I'm just saying,
60s.
I know, but look how that's like drawn out. Like that just looks odd. Interesting to see that the voodoo guy's wearing a weird mask that kind of looks like a Phantom of the Opera meets Nazi mask.
Phantom of the
You know what I mean?
Opera is
Again,
here.
all things taken into perspective here. All things. Okay, so we have voodoo, and I think here we go with the last zombie movie, 1968, The Astro Zombies, science fiction horror film. Looking at the poster alone, we have a zombie eating a woman.
Right.
We have a ripped off head with blood.
Yeah.
So by poster, we're already put into the 15% range because he's eating a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a skull. Okay. The plot follows a disgruntled scientist, and we got a scientist, who, having been fired by the space agency, decides to create superhuman monsters from the body parts of innocent murder victims.
So
the
now we're going
creatures
Frankenstein, huh?
We're going back to Frankenstein. The creatures eventually escape and go on a killing spree, attracting the attention of.
So they have free will. They have free will. They want.
They have free will.
They want to
go attack.
Be aggressive, which is one of our. Stipulations. So,
yeah, they have to have. Wow, the budget was only $37,000.
Granted, this is 1968, so that's probably a lot. Actually,
it's a 94. It's an hour and a half movie. It's an hour and 34 minutes. So again, they have free will. They go on a killing spree. They are reanimated corpses. I think this goes back to what we were talking about. Like, if you can reanimate a corpse with electricity. Is it Frankenstein or is it zombie? I think it depends on the character of the zombie. Judge the zombie by the content of its character, not by the body parts it's been sewn with.
True. So this might even be getting into the 70 to 80% zombie, traditional zombie.
Yeah, I would say into the 70 to 80%, maybe even 90, maybe even 90, not 100%, but it's pushing those bounds. With the poster, with the description, I would say it's a zombie flick, and I think that's going to bring us right around to Night of the Living Dead, which came out in 1968, which is what, I mean, you and I both classify as mainstream zombie movie.
Right. This is the grandfather. This is the first official, if you would, traditional zombie, but still such an interesting history. Started off with voodoo. Whereas it was more of a corpse than a straight up zombie, and then somebody was controlling them. And then the more we went, there was definitely a tradition. It's like, well, I'm gonna capture somebody, or I'm gonna get revenge on somebody by raising somebody else from the dead.
Or we had the random one-offs where it was like a scientist who was reanimating things or causing like a serum. Most of the time the scientists were Nazis though, but I think that has more to do with what generation that came out of.
Right.
Which it's no secret that the Nazis were doing a lot of like scientific experiments during the World War II, you know, and prior to World War II. None of it was okay. But they did do a lot of that. So I can see why we had this, you know, this fluctuation between like different styles of zombies coming through 1932 all the way to 1968.
Yeah. So this was a really long trip to basically just say we think Night of the Living Dead is the first zombie movie. Yep. It was a long ass podcast just to get to the assumption of.
But we couldn't just flat out say that. We had to give you. We had to give you the cake. Yeah, we had to give you the context of why we believe this. The list even says that Night of the Living Dead, where did it go? First film to depict zombies as reanimated cannibalistic cadavers. So, and that, I think that's the one item that Nick and I flat out say that if you are a zombie, you have to be cannibalistic. you have to be a reanimated cadaver.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the most absolute biggest things that you're going to need to classify yourself as a zombie. I think we found a few of those in our list.
Yeah, definitely. I was surprised to see how many got close, and maybe even how many that George A. Romero might have been inspired by.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the weirdest thing about it is just, how many came out in pretty quick succession of each other. Yeah. I mean, horror in general seemed to be you're either vampire or you're a zombie back in the 40s and 50s.
Or the werewolf. They did have werewolf aspect too. But no, you're 100% right. It was vampire, it was zombie, it was Frankenstein, it was reanimation of dead tissue.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I'd love to get into Night of the Living Dead, but guess what? That's going to be next episode. Next episode, we're going to dive into the story. We're going to dive into what made the zombies.
Yes.
We're going to dive into one of the very first main protagonists being a African American and what that means for society and everything. So I'm super excited. First episode is going to be Night of the Living Dead. So come on this journey with us. We'll always kind of let you know what our next episode is going to be, because this is going to be a bi-weekly kind of thing. So we're always going to let you know what our next one is. So if you want to watch it so that you can kind of have that fresh in your mind, you'll always be able to kind of experience that with us. So our next one's going to be Night of the Living Dead. Then we might even do a video game. So we're going to go to Resident Evil.
Yep, we're going to be popping around. We're going to be popping around.
And now is the time to talk to us. Let us know what you think we should do next. Always let us know. You can go to all of our things. If you're watching our video, it's down at the bottom. You got at TX3 Productions. You got ThreatX3 Productions, so you can just go to the YouTube and go to the comments down below. Let us know what you think. You can also go to ThreatX3 Productions Discord. It's always going to be in the description down below or pinned to the top of our Twitter. So there's a lot of different ways, and maybe even the easiest way, threatx3productions@gmail.com. You can get a hold of us. Let us know what you think about the movie that we'll be talking about that week, or suggest what you think we should do next.
What kind of zombies we're going to be covering.
Yeah. So
zombies.
This was really interesting. I'm glad we kind of went through this and just really picked apart, like, is this zombie? Is this not zombie? Very interesting. But once again, we want to hear from you. What do you think is the first official zombie movie? Let us know down in the comments below, or get a hold of us, DM us any way you want. Thank you for listening. Make sure you check your corners.
Give them a double tap.
And don't get bit.